What happens when a billionaire's encounter with a curious little girl unearths a hidden truth that changes everything? On the bustling streets of Manhattan, Jason Harlow's name was synonymous with success. His empire spanned continents. His fortune amassed from ventures in technology and real estate. Yet, as he gazed out from the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, overlooking a city alive with ambition, Jason felt trapped in a cage of his own making. The grandiosity of his life was a stark contrast to the emptiness within. Jason, now 42, had everything money could buy, but there was no one to share it with. Miles away, Emma Scott was living a life far removed from luxury. A single mother struggling to make ends meet, Emma had fought through grief after her husband, Alan, passed away in a tragic accident 5 years ago. Her days were a blur of early morning shifts and late-night jobs, all to support her vivacious 8-year-old daughter, Clara. Emma's resilience was her strength, but Clara was her light. It was this unyielding devotion that led Emma to accept a new job as a maid in the city's most exclusive penthouse, Jason Harlow's. Emma's first day at the mansion felt surreal. The sheer scale of Jason's home was overwhelming, a sprawling estate of glass and marble that seemed to float above the city. Jason, reserved and businesslike, greeted her briefly, his demeanor cold and detached. To him, Emma was another employee in a life where relationships were transactional. For Emma, however, this job was a lifeline, a chance to finally create a stable future for Clara. But it wasn't just the job that intrigued her. In Jason's home, an old photo on a mahogany shelf caught her eye. A younger Jason, arms around a smiling man who bore an uncanny resemblance to Alan, her late husband. The discovery unsettled her, stirring questions she dared not ask. Meanwhile, Clara, with her boundless curiosity, found herself exploring the mansion's many rooms. It was during one such adventure that she encountered Jason in his private study, sparking a conversation that would upend both their lives. "Why do you look like my dad?" Clara asked innocently, her wide eyes locking onto Jason's startled expression. Jason couldn't shake the little girl's words. For someone so detached from emotion, Clara's question pierced a part of him he thought long buried. He found himself revisiting the photo Emma had noticed earlier, the one of him and his late younger brother Andrew. Andrew, who had vanished from his life years ago after an argument that neither had resolved. Jason's success had come at a cost, and Andrew's absence was a scar he carried in silence. Meanwhile, Emma's work in the mansion brought her closer to Jason's tightly guarded world. She observed him from the periphery, his precision, his habits, and the way he avoided personal connections. She also noticed the moments of hesitation in his demeanor when Clara was around. Clara's innocence seemed to stir something unfamiliar in him, a softness Jason himself didn't recognize. But Emma was carrying questions of her own. The resemblance between Jason and Alan was too striking to dismiss. As days turned into weeks, Emma wondered if their paths had crossed before, or if fate was leading her toward answers she wasn't prepared to face. Clara, too young to grasp the complexities of adult emotions, became a bridge between Emma and Jason. Her unfiltered curiosity and boundless optimism often broke the ice in a household otherwise steeped in quiet formality. One evening, Clara invited Jason to play a game of chess, a hobby she'd picked up with her mom at their modest apartment. Surprised, Jason accepted, and for the first time in years, he felt something akin to joy. As the chessboard became their meeting ground, Jason began asking questions about Clara and Emma's life. The pieces of their story slowly fell into place: Emma's late husband, Clara's dreams of becoming an artist, and the small but significant ways they fought to stay afloat. Jason felt a growing connection but kept his distance emotionally, wary of opening old wounds. For Emma, Jason's interactions with Clara revealed a side of him she hadn't expected, a man capable of warmth and care, even if buried beneath layers of isolation. Yet the lingering mystery of Alan's connection to Jason loomed large, like a shadow neither of them could escape. Jason's routine began to change in subtle but significant ways. He started lingering in the mornings when Emma arrived for her shift, occasionally catching Clara's cheerful greetings or snippets of her stories. Clara had a knack for filling the mansion's cold, echoing halls with laughter, a sound that Jason hadn't realized he missed. The chess games became a nightly ritual, and as the weeks passed, Jason noticed that he looked forward to their time together. However, with every smile Clara shared and every curious question she asked, Jason felt a gnawing sense of familiarity. It wasn't just the resemblance to Alan, it was something deeper, as though a part of him recognized her even if he couldn't explain why. That feeling intensified when Emma finally opened up about Alan. She shared how he had been an orphan, raised in a foster home, and had little to no knowledge of his biological family. The gaps in Alan's history mirrored Jason's memories of Andrew's disappearance. Could it be possible, Jason wondered, that Clara was connected to him in a way he had never imagined? Emma, too, found herself drawn to the parallels between Jason and Alan. Late one evening, after Clara had gone to bed, she cautiously approached Jason with the photo she had found in his study. "This man," she began, holding the frame carefully. "He looks so much like my late husband, Alan. Who is he?" Jason froze, the weight of her question pressing on him like a tidal wave. For a moment, he was transported back to his youth, to days spent with Andrew before their falling out. "That's Andrew, my brother," Jason replied quietly, his voice laced with regret. "I haven't seen him in over 15 years. We had an argument, and he left. I've spent years wondering where he went, but I never imagined." His words trailed off as realization struck. Emma's heart raced as the pieces began falling into place. Could Alan and Andrew have been the same person? If so, that meant Clara wasn't just a random child in Jason's life, she was family. The revelation left them both reeling, unsure of how to proceed. Jason's mind was flooded with questions. Why had Andrew, or Alan, kept his identity hidden? And why had fate brought Emma and Clara to him now? Determined to find answers, Jason delved into his past, revisiting memories he had long tried to suppress. He searched through old photographs, letters, and documents stored in dusty boxes in the attic. Each piece of evidence painted a picture of Andrew's life before their fallout tone, filled with ambition, passion, and a desire to break free from Jason's shadow. Among the artifacts, Jason found a journal Andrew had kept, filled with sketches, dreams, and notes about starting fresh in a place far from their family's influence. But it wasn't until Jason hired a private investigator that the pieces began to align. The investigator uncovered details of Andrew's life after he left. A name change to Alan, a quiet marriage to Emma, and his tragic passing in a car accident. The revelation struck Jason like a thunderbolt. Andrew had sought a new identity, leaving behind the weight of their shared past, only to face a fate Jason now deeply regretted. For Emma, the discovery was bittersweet. While it explained so much about Alan's secrecy regarding his origins, it also deepened her grief. She had loved a man who had carried invisible scars from a life he rarely spoke about. Now, she and Jason were connected in ways neither of them had foreseen. Clara, blissfully unaware of the turmoil unfolding around her, continued to be the glue that held Jason and Emma together. Her innocence and joy were a constant reminder of what truly mattered. One afternoon, as Clara played in the garden, she found an old chess piece carved from wood. She rushed to Jason, holding it up like a prized treasure. "Look, Mr. Jason, isn't it beautiful?" Jason stared at the piece, recognizing it instantly that it was part of a handmade chess set Andrew had crafted in their youth. Overwhelmed, Jason knelt beside Clara, tears threatening to spill as he explained its significance. "This belonged to my brother," he said softly. "He was an amazing person, just like your dad must have been." As the words left his lips, Jason felt a shift within himself. Clara's connection to Andrew where Alan was, no longer a source of confusion or regret, but a bridge to healing. That evening, as Jason and Emma spoke in hushed tones, they began to consider how to honor Andrew's memory and provide Clara with the love and support she deserved. Jason's transformation from a solitary billionaire to a man embracing the bonds of family was well underway. The tension reached a boiling point one quiet evening, when Clara's innocent curiosity once again brought the truth into sharp focus. As Emma prepared dinner in the kitchen, Clara wandered into Jason's study, her small hands brushing over the framed photo of Jason and Andrew. "This is my dad, isn't it?" Clara asked, her voice clear and confident. Jason froze, the weight of her words sinking in. He knelt beside her, struggling to find the right words. "Clara, your dad was my brother," he said softly, his voice cracking with emotion. "I didn't know him as well as I should have, and for that I am sorry." Clara's bright eyes searched his face, her expression a mixture of understanding and childlike wonder. "Does that make you my uncle?" she asked. tilting her head. Jason nodded, a faint smile breaking through his tears. "Yes, Clara, it does." In the kitchen, Emma overheard the conversation and felt a rush of emotion. The truth was out in the open now, leaving no room for doubt. She joined them in the study, placing a comforting hand on Clara's shoulder. "You were meant to meet him," Emma whispered to her daughter. But the moment of clarity was short-lived as a new challenge arose. Clara's discovery had unlocked a flood of memories and emotions in Jason, forcing him to confront the guilt he had buried for years. He wrestled with questions he couldn't answer. Why had he let his relationship with Andrew deteriorate? Could he have done more to keep him in his life? The emotional toll began to affect Jason's interactions with Emma and Clara. He became distant, retreating into himself as the weight of his regrets consumed him. Emma noticed the shift and, though hesitant, decided to address it directly. Late one night, she found Jason in his study, staring at Andrew's photo. "You can't blame yourself for everything," Emma said gently, her voice steady despite her own pain. Jason looked at her, his eyes filled with sorrow. "But I should have been there for him," he replied. "If I had known, if I had done more." Emma interrupted, her tone firm but kind. "Andrew Alanchos a new life, and he made a family with me and Clara. You weren't perfect, Jason, but neither was he. What matters now is how we move forward." Her words struck a chord, and for the first time in weeks, Jason felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they began to envision a future where Clara's happiness and Andrew's memory guided their steps. Just as Jason and Emma began to find some emotional equilibrium, an unexpected event threw their fragile progress into chaos. Clara, ever curious and adventurous, wandered into Jason's vast library one afternoon. Among the dusty shelves, she discovered a locked box that intrigued her. Unaware of the memories it held, she asked Jason for the key. Jason hesitated, knowing the box contained relics of his and Andrew's childhood letters, photographs, and tokens of a bond that had been severed too soon. Reluctantly, he opened it, and together, they sifted through its contents. Clara was captivated by the snapshots of young Jason and Andrew, laughing and carefree. One photograph stood out, Andrew holding a chess piece identical to the one Clara had found earlier. "This was his favorite piece," Jason murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "He always said it symbolized strategy and foresight." Clara's innocent question broke the silence. "Did he leave it here for us to find?" Jason's chest tightened. Perhaps Andrew had left the piece as a silent message, a way of saying he hadn't forgotten his family despite the distance he had created. The revelation strengthened Jason's resolve to honor his brother's memory, but fate had one more trial in store. While Jason was deep in thought, Clara, eager to share her discoveries, ventured into the sprawling garden unsupervised. She climbed a tree to retrieve a branch she thought resembled the chess piece, but her foot slipped, sending her tumbling to the ground. The commotion drew Jason and Emma outside in a panic. Jason found Clara lying on the ground, tears streaming down her face but conscious. "I didn't mean to scare you," Clara sobbed, clutching her arm. Jason scooped her up gently, his heart pounding with fear. "You are okay, Clara. I've got you," he said, holding her close. Emma's voice trembled as she reassured Clara that everything would be fine. But the incident shook them both to the core. At the hospital, as Clara's arm was treated for a minor fracture, Jason realized the depth of his love for his niece. Watching Clara bravely endure the ordeal, he vowed never to let fear or guilt hold him back again. Family is about being there, no matter what, he thought, his eyes meeting Emma's. She gave him a reassuring nod, silently acknowledging the unspoken promise between them. The accident became a turning point for Jason, Emma, and Clara. Once back at the mansion, Jason took steps to ensure Clara's safety and comfort, installing a cozy reading nook in the library so she could enjoy her adventures without danger. It wasn't just the physical changes that mattered. Jason began to change emotionally. He became more involved in Clara's life, helping her with school projects, teaching her chess strategies, and even joining Emma in her evening routines of storytelling and laughter. Jason's transformation didn't go unnoticed by those around him. His longtime butler, Mr. Thomas, who had served him through years of isolation, commented on the newfound warmth in the household. "The mansion feels like a home again, sir," Mr. Thomas said one evening as Jason tucked Clara in after a story. Jason couldn't help but agree. For the first time in years, the echoes of his past seemed less haunting, replaced by the sounds of a family rebuilding itself. Inspired by the changes in his life, Jason decided to do more than just honor Andrew's memory within the confines of his home. He established a foundation in Andrew's name, dedicated to supporting children in foster care and single-parent families. Mirroring the struggles Emma and Clara had faced, the initiative became a beacon of hope for many, and its launch was celebrated with a heartfelt event at the mansion, bringing together donors, beneficiaries, and friends. At the event, Emma took the stage to share her story. With Clara standing proudly by her side, she spoke about resilience, love, and the power of second chances. Jason watched from the audience, filled with gratitude and pride. When it was his turn to speak, he said, "This isn't just about giving back. It's about connection, about family, and about honoring those we've lost by building a better future for those who remain." The applause was thunderous, but it was Clara's shy smile and whispered, "Thank you, Uncle Jason," that meant the most to him. That moment solidified his commitment to being the kind of man Andrew and now Clara could be proud of. As life settled into a new rhythm, Jason found himself spending more time with Emma and Clara outside the mansion. They visited parks, attended Clara's school events, and even took small trips to places Jason had never considered before. For a man who had once lived entirely for his work, these moments felt like discovering a new world. Clara's laughter became his favorite sound, and her curiosity reminded him of the joy he and Andrew had shared in their youth. Emma, too, experienced a transformation. With Jason's unwavering support, she returned to her passion for art. Jason insisted on converting one of the unused rooms in the mansion into an art studio for her. "You've given so much to Clara and me," she said one day as she worked on a painting. "It's time you let yourself receive something too." Jason smiled, realizing she was right. This was as much about healing his heart as it was about helping them rebuild their lives. On a crisp autumn evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Jason made an announcement that left Emma and Clara speechless. He had decided to legally adopt Clara as his niece, ensuring she would always have the security and love of a family. "You've given me a second chance," Jason said, his voice thick with emotion, "and I want to do everything I can to give you both the same." Clara leapt from her chair, wrapping her arms around Jason's neck. "Thank you, Uncle Jason," she exclaimed, her voice filled with joy. Emma's eyes welled with tears, and for a moment, she couldn't speak. When she finally did, she said, "You've brought us more than we ever imagined, more than we thought we deserved." As they sat together, the room filled with warmth and laughter, Jason realized that his once empty mansion had become a true home. The bonds they had forged through pain and discovery had turned into a family stronger than any he had known. As the foundation gained momentum, Jason's home began to transform into a hub of activity and purpose. Children from the foundation visited regularly, filling the once silent halls with laughter and creativity. Clara thrived in this environment, her infectious enthusiasm inspiring the children who visited. Jason, who had once preferred solitude, now found joy in mentoring the children, teaching them chess and listening to their dreams. Each visit reminded him of Andrew and the dreams they had once shared. Emma's art studio also became a centerpiece of their new life. One day, Clara wandered in, fascinated by her mother's work. "Can I paint with you, Mom?" Clara asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Emma handed her a small canvas, and the two spent hours painting side by side. Jason watched from the doorway, a sense of peace washing over him. For the first time in years, he felt that the mansion wasn't just a symbol of his success, it was a place where life and love could flourish. The turning point came during one of the foundation's workshops, when Clara was asked to share her story with the other children. Standing before the group, she spoke with confidence. "I didn't always know I had a family. My mom worked so hard to take care of me, and we didn't have much. Then we met Uncle Jason, and everything changed. He showed us what it means to care, and now we have each other." Her words brought tears to Jason's eyes, and the room erupted into applause. Afterward, Clara ran to Jason, hugging him tightly. "I want to help more kids, Uncle Jason. Like you helped me," she said, her voice filled with determination. Jason knelt beside her, his heart swelling with pride. "You already are, Clara," he said softly. "You are inspiring everyone here, just by being yourself." That night, as Jason sat alone in his study, he opened Andrew's journal one last time. Flipping through its pages, he stopped at a note Andrew had written years ago. "Family isn't about where you start, it's about who stays by your side." Jason smiled, finally at peace, knowing that Andrew's legacy lived on in ways neither of them could have imagined. Months later, the mansion that had once stood as a symbol of Jason's loneliness had become a lively gathering place. Community events, foundation workshops, and family dinners brought warmth to its grand halls. Jason often found himself surrounded by laughter, a sound that had once felt foreign. Clara's presence continued to be the heart of it all. Whether she was leading art projects with the foundation's children or challenging Jason to a chess match, her joy was infectious. One evening, as they all sat down to dinner, Jason reflected on how much his life had changed. He no longer measured success by profits or prestige, but by the connections he had built and the lives he had touched. Emma, sitting across from him, noticed the contentment in his eyes. "You've done so much, Jason," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Not just for Clara and me, but for everyone who's walked through these doors." Jason smiled. "It's because you both showed me what it means to truly live," he replied. In a final gesture of love and commitment, Jason announced a new initiative through the foundation: the creation of a scholarship fund in Andrew's name, designed to support children in foster care who aspired to follow their dreams. At the unveiling ceremony, Jason gave a heartfelt speech. "This isn't just about giving back," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "It's about making sure that every child has the chance to build a future, just like my brother wanted." As the crowd applauded, Jason glanced at Emma and Clara standing beside him. Clara held his hand tightly, her pride evident. "Uncle Jason," she whispered, "Andrew would be so proud of you." The words struck Jason deeply, and he bent down to kiss Clara's forehead. "And I am proud of you, Clara. You've taught me more than I ever thought possible." That night, as the event wound down, Jason found himself sitting quietly in the garden with Emma and Clara. The stars overhead seemed brighter, as if they were celebrating alongside them. This is how Andrew would have wanted it, Jason thought, feeling a profound sense of closure. As the months turned into a year, the mansion's transformation was complete, not just physically but emotionally. Jason had opened his home to the community, holding regular events where foster children and families could gather. The mansion, once cold and lifeless, now overflowed with art created by the children, their vibrant paintings adorning the walls alongside Emma's work. Jason had even restored an old greenhouse on the property, turning it into a garden where Clara and the children planted flowers and vegetables. One afternoon, Clara led Jason into the garden to show him a project she had worked on with the other children. "We made this for you, Uncle Jason," she said, pointing to a row of stones they had painted with messages of gratitude. Each stone bore words like hope, family, and love. At the center was a larger stone with the inscription, "In memory of Andrew, whose dream of family now inspires us all." Jason knelt to touch the stone, his hands trembling. "It's beautiful," he whispered, his voice breaking. For the first time, he felt the weight of his guilt lift, replaced by the warmth of his brother's legacy. On a quiet evening not long after, Jason, Emma, and Clara gathered around the dining table for a simple family meal. The room glowed with soft light, and the air was filled with laughter as Clara recounted a funny moment from her day. For Jason, it was a moment of pure contentment. As they finished their meal, Clara brought out a small box she had hidden behind her chair. "I made this for you," she said shyly, handing it to Jason. Inside was a handmade scrapbook filled with photos and drawings. On the first page was a picture of Jason and Clara playing chess, underlined with the words, "Thank you for being my family." Jason's eyes glistened as he flipped through the pages, each one a testament to the love and memories they had built together. At the back was a note written in Clara's careful handwriting. "Family isn't just about blood, it's about love. Thank you for teaching me that." Jason pulled Clara into a tight embrace, his voice barely above a whisper. "No, Clara. Thank you for teaching me what family really means." Emma joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them, and in that moment, they felt like the family they had all been searching for. As the evening drew to a close, Jason stood in the garden gazing at the stars. He felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing that his life, once dominated by isolation, now revolved around love, connection, and purpose. Andrew's memory lived on not just in the foundation, but in the family Jason had finally found. Jason's journey reminds us that family can be found in the most unexpected places, and that healing begins when we open our hearts. What would you do if life gave you a second chance to reconnect and make a difference? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. If this tale of love, redemption, and hope moved you, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on more inspiring stories like this. Let's spread the message of compassion and connection far and wide. Thank you for watching. And remember, family is where the heart is.